All right, we'll try and give everybody a few minutes to get in here. Absolutely no idea how many people are showing up, so we'll give everybody a few minutes. Dave, you are officially co-host. I don't know if you automatically were, but you are now officially co-host.
Sounds fancy.
Yeah,
I grew this mustache just to be a co-host.
that's fast. I also have no idea what the settings are in this Zoom, so
Oh, we have people
I,
in waiting room. Cool.
yeah. So
Uh,
I don't know if you were able to share anything without being a
Angie,
host.
Angie, Evan, Adam, Brandon. Yes, Brendan. Solid crew. Love you guys.
Rolling in, rolling in, rolling in. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is actually totally off topic, just because it's something that happened about an hour ago, and I definitely want to talk about it. But I still want to give another minute or so for people
Uh-oh.
to.
That means it
No,
costs us money.
it's all good. No, it had nothing to do with us. It's somebody posted a deal for they were looking for a lender, and I'm going to walk through why it was a terrible deal. All right, well, let's get started. People can trickle in as they come. Oh, they're still coming in. Okay. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is share my screen. Actually, no, hold on. First thing I'm gonna do is thank you guys for coming in.
Jeremy, I'll handle all the requests and all the side chat and all that stuff while you're talking.
Okay, you can do the waiting room. Cool. Okay. So as you guys are, most of you are probably aware, Dave and I are running a school community. It is a completely free community, and that's where we're gonna be focusing most of our efforts at this point going forward. So, we'll be putting all our stuff in there, all the Zooms that we run, all the lives that we do will be run through school. So, we appreciate the support that you guys are giving us, and we'll try and give you guys as much effort and value as we can give you out of our school community. So, this is the very beginning. This is the first Zoom we are doing in this school community. So, hopefully you guys will take some value from this. And, I'm going to run this a lot like my accountability calls. So a bunch of you have been on my accountability calls before. We're open books, so you can ask us anything. We'll answer any question we know the answer to. We'll give you a peek behind the curtain whenever we can. And it's an open forum, so don't feel like you're interrupting if you have a question about anything we're going over. Okay. If you feel like raising your hand's the appropriate thing to do, then go ahead and raise your hand. If you feel like you can just, unmute yourself and ask a question, if it's appropriate, go ahead and do that. I am cool with whatever you guys want to do. But so for starters, now that that's out of the way, I just want to walk through this deal that someone put inside Sub2 earlier today and explain what we look for as a buyer. Now, I know a few of you on here are buyers. A few of you on here are looking at deals all day long, so you understand the struggle. But this deal, if you are, not used to looking at deals and you don't quite have the experience of underwriting a lot of deals, at first glance, this can look like a good deal. Okay. So they posted, these are the numbers they posted on their post right here. ARV of 1.125 million. And I'm not questioning their ARV or their rehab numbers. I have to just assume their numbers are correct, right? So 1.125 is their ARV, rehab cost of 170,000, purchase price of 785,000. So, you can look at that really quick and say, wow, there's a decent spread there. This has to be a deal. Anyone that's used to doing deals will look at this and say, that probably sounds really thin. But let me look at the numbers. So this is a deal calculator that we have been using. I'll show you a different calculator in our presentation that we're using now, but this one is just easier for me to use for right now. So we use Kiavi for almost all of our loans. and we usually use a second position lender. But for ease of this calculation, I'm just going to put in the full loan amount, purchase and reno, plus closing costs as a 12% interest loan. Just a single loan with 1 point, okay? Only holding the project for 4 months, which on a $170,000 renovation, $1 million house, realistically, this is going to be a minimum of a 6-month hold, right? So just 4 months, you're looking at $47,000 in financing costs. And then when you sell the property, you have almost $70,000 in seller transaction costs, right? Most of which is your 6% realtor fee. So $49,000 net profit, which some people argue, well, I'd sign up for a $50,000 profit all day long. No, you won't, not on $1 million property, right? And why is that? Because your ROI is 4.5%. What happens when the market corrects 5%? Now, all of a sudden, your deal just lost $55,000, right? That's how much your ARV drops, by $55,000. Now, boom, you're negative. How are you going to go to a private money lender and talk to them about this deal and ask them to lend you $1 million when all they need is a 5% correction in the market for your lender to lose money? It's never going to happen, right? So that is why we use calculators. That is the way Dave and I look at deals. For any of you that don't know, Dave is my business partner. Those of you that see me inside the accountability calls usually don't see Dave, but I talk about him all the time, so you probably know who he is.
Yeah, we've arguably left a lot of money on the table in deals we said no to, but our general rule is we want to sleep at night. And how do we sleep at night? Knowing that our private lenders are protected. Knowing that if we fail miserably at this, our private lenders getting something we got enough discount on that they can still move it on the open market. They're getting their money back, ideally with their return. Again, right, you have to look at this through like a very long-term lens. And this is just constantly building your credibility, building relationships. Like you're never trying to hit it out of the park on the deal. You're never trying to force a deal is probably the number one rule. If we're ever finding ourselves having the conversation, we're trying to convince ourselves of like, oh, we can use an extra 50 grand right now. If we're convincing ourselves, that's an automatic filter for us where it's like, nope, not this one. On to the next. There's always going to be another deal.
Yeah, and there are plenty of investors that look at it from the other side and they're like, I'm just going to do a deal. If it pencils out, I'm just going to do it. And if I make 20 grand, I make 20 grand. If I make 50 grand, I make 50 grand. Because we use private lenders on every single deal we do, we will never take that approach. So it's just the way we like to do our business. So Gage put a question already in the chat. How do you get renovations done so fast? We will go deeper into this, obviously, as this deal breakdown goes. But what I said on this deal breakdown was, I have 4 months in the calculator, but if you were doing this actual deal with 170 renovation on a $1.1 million resale, you're probably looking at 6 months. It's going to have longer time on market, and a 170 rehab is going to take you, I'd say you'd be lucky to get it done in 6 weeks, right? And then on top of that, depending on where you are with your $1.1 million house, you may be like, I know there are, Yana's probably not on here yet, right? Is she on here? No. Yana is in Miami. It could take her 4 months to get permits in Miami, right? So if now that's the case, you're paying interest on a $970,000 loan, and you're just sitting around twiddling your thumbs for 4 months waiting for permits, right? So that's going to take you at least 9 months in that situation to get out of the deal. And now you're really negative. Okay, so what we do, Gage, to directly answer your question, we tend to not get into flips, especially now that are this big. We like to stay in flips. Now, a handful of ones we've done recently have been in the $80,000 to $100,000 range. We try and stay in the $40,000 range as far as a rehab budget. And we are generally out of our rehab and property listed in under a month. Okay.
Yeah, generally speaking, you just have a lot of rules. Our rules are median price single family homes within a certain square footage range and a certain price point. So you know you're never going to get into a reno that's like if your house is under 2,000 square feet or under 2,500 square feet, you're not. It's way different than you're getting into a 6,000, 8,000 square foot home.
Yeah. Yeah. In this economy, I'm not touching a 6 or 8,000 square foot house.
No,
And
we love the median price point markets. They're just arguably the most recession proof. They're just not going to fluctuate as much. And if you could get stuck holding a property in that price point, you're going to find renters and it's probably going to pay for itself. Obviously, we'll be conservative underwriting with multiple exits when we go into it. The calculator we use is just for fix and flips, but we know that, more or less these deals pencil if we were to get stuck with them.
in all fairness, we have multiple calculators, right? The one that we're going to be showing in this presentation is literally just a fix and flip calculator. We have other calculators that show us all of our exits. But that's not what this is about today. So, yeah, if you're planning on doing anything other than flipping, you should have a calculator that shows you multiple exits because you have multiple buyer types. Right. Oh, one thing I wanted to show you and I didn't, it's not on here. I'm going to go into my actual deal calculator for a second and show you guys something before I really get into this. Okay, so this is the actual deal we're going to be talking about. And I just want to point something out real quick before I go into everything else. But look at the bottom corner here, bottom right corner. This is if you're newer and you're wholesaling and you think that you can get by with the typical 70%, 72% formula, like everybody out there teaches you to do, I want to show you what this will show you here, what I'm looking at. If I think I'm competing with a wholesaler, what do I look at? What do I know they're offering a seller? And what can we pay? Right. So in this situation, this is a 575 ARV house. And we have $100,000 renovation, and we held it for 3 months. A wholesaler offering 72% minus the $100,000 rehab, minus a $10,000 assignment fee, can only offer $292,000. We paid $337,500. Right. So we'll win that every single day. So if you're wholesaling, understand how to use a calculator. Don't use your standard formulas because you are definitely leaving money on the table if you're wholesaling this. Yeah, a wholesaler could have come to us with this deal. You could have locked it up at 325 and we could have bought it from you at 337 and you would have been able to give your buyer an extra, $30,000 worth of profit. All right. So before I get into it, anybody have any questions on any of that? Because I'm going to dive into the actual deal breakdown here in a second. Okay. Sweet. I don't have the chat open, just so you know. So Dave, if you have it and
Yep. I'm keeping an eye on it.
cool.
Bogby, explain what again? The wholesale versus flip and the importance of understanding the numbers.
Okay.
You can yourself if you want to.
So if you're a wholesaler, right? And so let's just say you're a brand new wholesaler and you've been, like I did 7 years ago, you've absorbed every single Bigger Pockets podcast you could absorb, or whatever other your flavor is for education, and everyone is promoting the typical 70% rule for a wholesaler, right? You find out what your after repair value is on the house, you multiply that by 70%, then you subtract whatever your rehab is going to be. In this situation, it was $100,000 rehab, so subtract 100,000. and then subtract 10,000 or whatever you want your assignment fee to be. If you want to make 25,000, then subtract 25,000. And that's your max allowable offer for your wholesale deal, right? So now you're going to go to your seller and you're going to give them that number, which in this case is $292,500. That's the most you can pay as a wholesaler using that formula. But as a buyer, using our actual calculator that shows us our true costs in the deal, I know we can pay $337,500 and still make a net profit of $73,000. I would have paid more than that for this deal, right? Because we would have gladly signed up for a $50,000 profit.
Yeah,
Right?
like that number had us at 15% ROI, just rounding. If you know that as a buyer, we're okay making 12% ROI, then you left money on the table for yourself as a wholesaler, knowing that, hey, when I underwrite this for this specific buyer, they're only looking for a 12% ROI. So as a wholesaler, you left money on the table for yourself. What it comes down to is you want to understand what your buyers, if they're fix and flippers, which is they are as a wholesaler, what they're willing to pay based on what they're trying to make.
Mhm.
You also want to be crystal clear on how they underwrite, because that's where a lot of wholesalers mess up in terms of putting the ARV on things. We're generally conservative. We put a 575 on this. If you came in as a wholesaler and said, no, this is worth 625 easy, that throws your, shit in, shit out is what they say with these calculators. If you were way too high on your ARV, you're 50K off from our ARV, then we're not even going to be close.
Yep. All right. Any other questions on that stuff before we dive in?
Hey, Jeremy, why do you think they teach that? Because, I mean, I noticed that actually I didn't notice that at the beginning when I was trying to wholesale.
Mhm.
I think I probably left made a lot of bad offers, like you said. Since I started fixing and flipping my own, I definitely noticed that that the old 70% minus rehab, like that was a terrible formula. The other thing I noticed just real quick is I noticed that kind of changes at the price point. Like
Yes.
if we're flipping $1 million home, we tend to pay higher in the 70s.
Mhm.
Likewise, if we're flipping a $300,000 condo, we tend to like those numbers tend to go closer to like the 60 range. So I don't know. I was just curious if you have any thoughts about why they teach that terrible formula.
I think they teach it because it's easy to understand and it's easy to remember.
Yeah.
Right? It's just a simple formula. And without having an actual calculator to use, you don't have much else to go with.
Yeah. Yeah. The first step should be training people on a calculator. And I mean, I have a real simple one, looks a lot like yours, just basically hits all those flipping costs. That's where they should probably start, is training people better on their numbers at the very beginning.
ARV.
ARV, yeah. Oh, that's true. That's kind of where it all starts, right? Like everything
Yeah.
goes wrong after that if it's wrong.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand um, all the costs associated with the deal. They just look at it and they say, all right, I have my ARV correct and I have my rehab correct, but they don't understand how much money you pay to your lenders. They don't understand, how every month you go over your timeline kills your profit. And they don't take into consideration that you're paying 6% commission to your agent. Right? So you're on $1 million house. That's a big chunk coming off that in the back end. Between your interest charges and your closing costs, you're at almost $100,000 on that property. Right? That's something that most newer wholesalers do not ever factor in.
I'm gonna answer Bobby real quick, and then let's get into the actual deal, Jeremy. Bobby, do investors comp differently? Generally speaking, agents, newer investors are taught to essentially draw a radius. The correct way to comp is you want to define a neighborhood. That could literally be a whole nother master class. But generally speaking, you know, you want like to like, so you don't want to be crossing main roads. You could have different builders, you could have different house styles, different square footage. You know, a lot of things can change when you leave a neighborhood, and that happens easily when you start drawing radiuses. That's probably the biggest mistake we see, but understanding specifically if your buyer, if you're wholesaling and that's how your buyer does it, do it the same way they do it.
Yep.
We're just extremely detailed and overly conservative.
All right. Let's get into it. Share another portion of my screen. Hold on. I will make this work. Give me a second. There we go. Okay. Can you see that entire thing? Yes. All right, cool. Okay. So this is 3074 Cane Mill Road in Lancaster, South Carolina. We just exited this one. I don't know, what was it, like 2 weeks ago, Dave?
The 28th, I think, was closing.
So yeah, 2 weeks ago. This was an interesting property. We went into this property expecting to make somewhere in the ballpark of $100,000. We came close. We had some hiccups along the way, and so just the basic overview of it, bought it for $337,500. We had an anticipated rental budget going in of $87,000. We had originally had an anticipated sales price of $600. We ended up selling it for $575.
We actually came on the market, I think, at like 625.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
came
we
on
knew
a
we
little
had such a
aggressive.
big spread. We kind of wanted to test the market. We knew I got our reno done quickly. You know, it was aggressive coming on there, but there were comps to support it.
Mhm. Yep. ROI is 14.57%. Reno took 31 days. The point listing it to getting it under contract. So listing to sold under contract, 34 days, which in the grand scheme of things is not bad. We kind of got pretty used to selling things in about 3 to 6 days for a while there. Now everything is changing. We're in several markets, and every one of our markets, we're kind of seeing the same thing. We are seeing longer days on market, and especially right now with summer having just ended, kids gone back to school. It was crickets out there for a while. So this one thankfully closed before that happened, because this was the most expensive property we owned. So it's nice to get that one off the board. And total project from, I believe this is contract to close, Dave. Is that what this is, 100 days?
Correct. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
day we closed on the purchase contract to the day our buyer closed on the sale contract.
Okay, cool. All right. So just a couple before and after pictures. It wasn't a terrible house, but obviously it was dated, and our contractor did a pretty good job on it. We didn't go super high end or anything, but I think he did a really nice job. And this fireplace came out great. The carpets were awful. So anytime you can get carpets out of a house, it just makes it look so much better. You can do a lot of really little things and make a big difference in these houses. This house did have a pool house, which added a bunch of costs to us, and also added a bunch of headaches for us, which I'll go over in a minute. But the pool was pretty nasty. Got the pool fixed up. Made that look a heck of a lot better. So this is where it becomes really, really important to have all your ducks in a row when it comes to keeping a project on timeline, right? And you can't keep a project on timeline if you don't have that timeline laid out before the project starts, right? You know what your entire scope of work is, you know what's going to be done, when it's going to be done, how much it's going to cost you, right? So when I'm looking at this here, and I'll show you another sheet in a second, but when I'm looking at this here, this is going to allow me to go into Kiavi, who is our lender, that's our fix and flip lender, and put in my draw schedule, right? So Kiavi is the one that's going to be lending us $100,000 for its renovation. But I have to go into Kiavi ahead of time and I have to tell them exactly what I'm going to be doing and how much it's going to cost per line item, right? So what I'm
Actually, I want to
trying,
correct that just so there's no confusion. Our reno budget that Kiavi gave us was this 87,240. We
yeah,
have to submit our scope of work with a detailed breakdown, and then they give us 100% of our reno budget.
yep,
We spent 100 because stuff popped up after the fact that we had to come out of pocket for.
yep, yeah, thanks. So just a little bit of insight to what goes on in my head when I'm doing this. When you get into a fix and flip project, those of you who've done them understand this. Those of you who've never done one, you will run into this problem. The first payment you make to your contractor happens before the project gets started, right? That's what allows them to go get materials. That's what allows them to actually feel like that you're invested in the project and they're going to actually commit to doing the project for you. Many contractors, if you don't have a relationship with them, they're going to ask for 50% down. Don't ever give your contractor 50% down. We like to keep it under 25% down. Basically, the conversation we have with our contractor is, hey, listen, we're not doing this because we don't want to, we're trying to be cheap or we want to, skimp out and giving you your down payment or anything like that. When we give you money and we're doing multiple of these projects, we can't get that money back until you have finished enough work for us to go back to Kiavi and ask for a draw request, right? So I'll go back to Kiavi after the first week and I'll say, hey, Kiavi, we've finished full demo, we've replaced the roof, and we've refinished the cabinets. I would like, however much that is on the line items, maybe it's $20,000. I would like to request a $20,000 draw. Now the 20 comes back to me, fantastic, but we're also at the end of the first week and now the contractor's asking you for another $18,000, right? Because that's the draw schedule with your contractor, the payment schedule with your contractor. So when you're in these projects, you're constantly juggling money going in, money going out, money going from Kiavi into your account. It's just like you're constantly moving things around, and the less organized you are, the harder time you're going to have, obviously, keeping this in order.
Now,
So
super important to understand as well, Kiavi or whoever your lender is most likely, in our case, Kiavi, they're going to send an inspector. And so we're giving them a detailed breakdown of, per line item, what's done as a part of each draw. Before they give us money back, they go and send an inspector for each different draw that walks through and confirms.
Yep.
We also, I'm probably getting ahead of what you're going to go through, but also before we pay our contractor on each draw, we go through and they have to send us, video narrated photo proof of everything that they agreed to up front before we even sent them a first payment and even began renovation. So there's constantly a system of checks and balances, us checking on our contractor, before we pay them, to make sure that we're confident that when Kiavi, our lender, sends their inspector, they're going to approve everything and we're actually going to get the money back. Because otherwise, we're out of luck. And next thing you know, they're going to hit the next draw and we have to have that money in our account that we're going to be out of pocket to keep our contractors on site and working.
Yep. Jeremiah, what do you got, man? You raised your hand.
I did. How are you guys working through coming off schedule? For example, week one, we just big rain front 3 or 4 days, so we couldn't do the roof. So I went ahead and got your walls painted, got your flooring in. Now we're in week two, kind of starting to get a little sloppy in terms of what has been prescribed. But how are you guys working through that?
Yeah, it happens. This property's in South Carolina and South Carolina get hit with a hurricane, right? So it does happen, and you just have a conversation with your contractor. You do whatever work you can, because obviously you don't want to say, no, sorry, you can't go ahead and do more interior work. You've got to get the roof done next. That's the order we have it. you're just flexible. You make sure it makes sense, whatever you're gonna pivot to.
Does the
And
lender offer you that, do they pivot with you for the draws then? Okay,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because what we'll do is we'll say, okay, you know what? Let's go ahead and do, so like, if we look here and we say, payment 2, right? Okay, we couldn't do the porch repair on payment 2 because it was raining out the entire week. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do something from week 3 or week 4, right? And that way, okay, I know you didn't do it. I don't want to penalize you and not give you your $18,000 that you're due on Friday, because you got to pay your team, right? We'll just try and figure out, and if we can't get, if they can't find something that makes sense and they're like, hey guys, this is all we could get to this week because it was raining, we have another, do I have it on here? Hold on a second. I don't have it on here. Shoot. We have the actual detailed scope of work that we had agreed on in the very beginning, which has prices on every one of these line items. So we're going to we can go through and say, okay, I understand week 2 was an $18,539 reimbursement, but you didn't do 2 of the things. And I understand why you didn't do them. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you 12,000 because you didn't do 2 of the big items.
okay, that
That's
makes sense.
another option for you. Okay.
I want to just answer Brendan Lyons real quick about our speed in 60 days. So Brendan, this is what I'm going to assume. When we went into this, it's almost we didn't know what we didn't know, right? So we set the pace with our team in advance on saying, hey, we want to get this done in 4 weeks. Now, how do we do that? We reverse back from our conversation with our agent, basically coming up with, the conversation I have with our agent is, I want this property to be under contract in 1 to 2 weeks. Knowing what buyers want right now, what this price point dictates, what level of renovation do we need to do, and what price point do we need to list at to accomplish that? So we're never over renovating. Mind you, if you look at this house, right? How did we decide what renovation would look like? How did we decide the colors? Jeremy and I do not overthink this. We rely on our local professionals. And that comes down to finding the right agent who knows the market, knows the buyers, knows the demand, knows the price points, and basically working closely with them to not over renovate something, not under renovate it, not over renovate it, and then to price it correctly so it moves quick. And so that we know that, we take that, go to our contractor and say, this is what we need to accomplish. This is the time frame we're trying to accomplish it in. Can you do this? Actually, we don't give them a budget. We never give our agent a budget or our contractor a budget in the beginning. We run our own numbers. And then when they get involved, they're just confirming our numbers. We've made that mistake once before where we gave our contractor numbers. They would have come in substantially less and they kind of tried to bump their price up to make the extra money that we had budgeted for. But we essentially take everything from the back end on what we want to sell at, how quick we want to sell it, etc. And then we reverse back out to that. That's part of how we're able to accomplish these flips so quick.
Thanks,
Yep.
Dave.
Evan, you asked, what days of the week does that cadence happen for draw requests and payments during an average week? Example, contractor submits pay request Friday, lender inspects on Tuesday. Yep. So basically, the way this happens is we try and make our draws with our contract, our draw payments to our contractor. We try and make those payments on Fridays, right? We usually have it every Friday is our schedule. If it's a bigger project, we might stagger it out to maybe skipping a week here or there. But let's just say for our average project, every Friday is our payment. Our payment is due to our contractor. It's on the contractor to make sure that we have his pictures by Thursday at the end of business, right? I want to know Thursday at the end of the day how much you've done and how much you fully expect to be completed by Friday afternoon. Why I need it 24 hours in advance is because we pay our contractors with a wire transfer. Sometimes. depending on the contractor and what's going on. What we pay with a wire transfer. The contractor comes to me at 5 p.m. on a Friday and says, hey guys, we're done. We want our $18,539. Can you please wire it? I gotta pay my guys. Well, why didn't you tell me that yesterday? You now have to send me your video walkthrough and all your photos showing me you did the work. And now by the time you get that to me, it's 5:30, 6 o'clock on a Friday. Well, guess what? The wire transfer window is closed. Banks don't transfer at 6 o'clock on a Friday night. Now he's not getting his money till Monday. Now he's bummed because he's got his team yelling at him about not getting paid. So he's going to have to come out of pocket to pay his team. Because if contractors don't pay their teams, they don't show up on Monday. Right. So as we had this problem with our main contractor. We worked through it and he finally realized, okay, well, this is why you're doing this. You set all these expectations up front, not only to protect you guys, but it protects me and makes my life easier because now my team knows that on Friday, they're going to get paid. As long as we follow the rules and do everything the way that you guys have laid out, we know on Friday at 5 o'clock, or maybe at Friday at noon, the money is going to be in my bank account because you guys have already wired it to me. Okay. So that's part one. We expect the contractor to tell us by Thursday night, at worst Friday morning, absolute worst by lunchtime Friday, right? They give us everything, gives us plenty of time to send the wire. The second part of that is how do we deal with Kiavi, right? So when I know they are going to be done, if they tell me on Thursday, fantastic. But if they tell me on Friday, I will then submit to Kiavi. I send Kiavi an email to draws@kiavi.com and I say, Kiavi Pro account, here's the address that links to that account, draw request number 2. And then I list all the items and the amount of money we're requesting. Kiavi will then they'll send me an email back and it says, thank you, we received your draw request. We'll be in contact shortly. They will send I think it's automatic notification to Inspectify. Inspectify will then assign an actual home inspector or contractor or whoever they're using. And then usually it's 2 days before I get a window of time. So if this happens on Friday, I can usually schedule an inspection by Tuesday. If I get really lucky, I might be able to get it by Monday. But usually by Tuesday, we'll have the inspection done. I usually do the inspections from 9 to 12 in the morning. They're usually there around 9. And then they will have their report back to Kiavi shortly after they're done. It's usually pretty quick. Usually they'll have it to Kiavi by maybe 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And depending exactly what time it comes in, Kiavi will then email us and say, we received the report from your inspector and we will be sending you a wire tomorrow at 1 p.m. if it's too late in the day. But so generally that will take 3 business days, right? 2 days to schedule it and then another day for it to Kiavi to actually read the report and get the wire sent to us. So we've paid our contractor on Friday, but we're not getting our money probably till Wednesday. Okay, so when you're doing several flips at the same time, you've now got Friday to Wednesday window where you've got all the money out and nothing has come back yet. Right. So these things start to add up over time. And all of a sudden you've got 20 grand here, 50 grand there, and you got 100, 150, $200,000 out waiting for it to come back in. And it becomes a game of just juggling numbers. It just makes it even more important to make sure your timelines going into the project are on point and everyone's on the same page. Okay.
Jeremy, Malika has a question. How are you running your numbers to determine the rehab budget?
So we are obviously looking at a calculator and we're trying to say, okay, if we know it's like a moving target, right? We know that ARV, the absolute top of the market after repair value, if the house is in HGTV condition, let's just say it's $600,000. Do you want to spend all the money it takes to get it to 600,000? Or will you have a better return on investment if you don't spend as much on the rehab and you shoot for a 550 sales price or a 575 sales price? We look at that on every single one of the deals we do. And that will determine how much we spend on the rehab.
That's a super important distinction. I just want to echo that. We're never trying to get the top of market ARV. You just can't expect that to happen every time.
Mhm.
So be conservative, shoot low, take in a factor of, of comfort off that top IRV, and don't spend the money or time it takes to renovate for that, because if you don't get it back, you're going to be disappointed and you lost money. You
Okay,
didn't
so
lose
can I,
money on the deal per se, but you maybe you did more than you need to. This is, for us, this is a speed thing, right? We're never trying to hit it out of the park on one deal. What are we trying to do? We're trying to consistently do profitable deals, keep our lenders paid back, and get on to the next one, sleep at night, keep things easy to manage, easy to, maintain. That's it, right? It's never, we're not looking at one deal as the life changer. We're looking, how can we consistently refine our process to get better and better at, getting everything we can out of each deal in a very low risk. Low risk is the name of our game.
Yep.
Your real estate, you're taking on a risk. We're trying to control as many variables as we could possibly control to reduce risk and maximize profit.
my question, sorry, just to jump in really quick. My question is more aligned with, okay, so if you are, I understand like how to create an ARV as far as like what I want to get done and the flips, but what I'm trying to figure out is how to not get price gouged by contractors, right? Because what you're saying is if you go to the contractor with a budget and you tell them like, hey, this is what I have to spend, they're going to charge you more. So are you guys saying that based off of your ARV how much the contractor should be charging you, or are you just trusting that the contractor is going to fairly price the rehab for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So this goes back to your initial conversation you have with your contractor when whether it's an existing relationship or you're going and finding a brand new contractor because you just went into a brand new virtual market. That conversation with your contractor has to lay out all the ground rules, right? Hey, listen, we're not trying to do one deal here. I'm not buying one house and you're getting one project and that's the last time we're ever going to work together. We want to have a long-standing relationship. We want to do a lot of business together. In order for us to do a lot of business together, I have to make sure that you guys are giving me quality work at a good, fair price. Right. So if you have to get multiple quotes in the beginning to do that, to make sure your contractor is giving you a fair price, do that. Right. But you're not going to have to do that every single time once you have the relationship built. Okay. You're not going to have to sit there and worry about like, oh, could have got it done $5,000 cheaper, because sometimes it's worth paying a little bit more money if you know your contractor is going to give you priority and they're going to look at you as more of like a business partner than just a one-off customer.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. And as far as like finding, I'm just gonna jump in with this question really quick, but as far as like finding contractors, so I'm in Houston and I have been kind of working on my business and wanting to do fix and flips for quite a while. I'm a realtor, so I do get to save on the side of like not having to pay commission. So I do get to save 3% on that as far as like listing my flips. But what I am having the most trouble with, which I feel like I always have trouble with, is like finding reliable contractors, because I upfront will have those conversations with contractors, and the ones that I'm talking to that are like, oh yes, exactly, let's work together, let's do all these transactions together, I still feel like they're not thinking about the overall like long-term relationship. It is really like, I'm just going to try to make as much money on this deal as possible, and then there's no profit. So do you guys have a way of like finding reliable contractors that you would recommend?
Yeah, so this could literally be, and probably will at some point be, an entire Zoom
Okay.
outside of this Zoom. But
Okay.
you know, the quick answer to that is you do not want to be going straight to a contractor. You want to be getting contractors through referrals.
Okay.
Find people that you know and you trust who have used them and are recommending them to you, and that will increase the quality of your GC pool.
On it. Okay. Cool. Thank you so much.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so let's move on from this. All right, so just really quick, this is more of a detailed breakdown of the actual draw schedule and the line items. This is what I actually put into Kiavi when I'm doing it. So, you know, if I forgot to put the actual scope of work in this presentation, but what I want to make sure anyone who does this, make sure what you're thinking about is keeping your draw schedule with Kiavi, your fix and flip lender, a little bit more front loaded, right? So if you have, you know, an even schedule with your contractor and that's, you know, $18,500 every Friday, but the work that's getting done is minimal stuff, right? It doesn't cost a lot of money. It takes them time. It doesn't cost a ton of money. It's not big ticket items. You could find yourself a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks into your project and only requested, you know, maybe say $10,000 from Kiavi, but you've paid $45,000 to your contractor, right? So what I'll do a lot of times is I will take some of the items that are done in the beginning and I'll just pad the number a bit. If my contractor came back with a $2,500 demo budget, I'm going to up it to maybe $4,000, $5,000, right? Anything that's in that first week, I'm going to try and add $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 to it. That way I can just get as much money back from Kiavi as possible and not have to worry that, you know, I'm not making up that first initial down payment for my contractor. And then I'm stuck 2-3 weeks later trying to play catch up the entire time. Okay. Again, doesn't make a huge difference if you're doing one deal, but if you're doing 3, 4, 5, 6 deals at a time, all these little things make huge differences in your numbers. Okay. So going back to the actual deal itself, we got this property under contract at $575,000. Again, I think we listed at 625. We dropped it to 6. We had a buyer come in. They offered us $575,000, and we went under contract. They went and had their inspection. And if you have not sold a house and had an inspection done, these inspections can scare the crap out of you. Inspection reports are like 50 pages long, and they basically tell you, I can't believe your house is still standing. Every single inspection report basically says the same thing, right? They pick every single thing they can possibly pick out of your house and tell the buyers, you need to be really, really careful because this thing is wrong, right? And it's usually ridiculous. So this is what we settled on after we said no to a whole bunch of stuff that they asked for. Still a lot of items, right? But a lot of these things were very minimal and our contractor could do them for next to no money, right? So we took care of basically everything they asked us to take care of. Most of it was really small. Some of it was really big. Our general take on a property inspection is nitpicky items. Like, I don't like, you know, the windows, they weren't painted properly, or they, you know, they appear older. Too bad, right? I don't care. It is what it is. You saw that when you said you wanted to buy the house. We care really about safety issues. Anything comes back where it's a safety issue, whether it's a fire hazard, electrical hazard, a plumbing issue, a tripping hazard, rotting deck, anything like that, that is absolutely going to get fixed, or it's going to get a concession. Okay. So here's where these are like the big sticking points for us and where we ended up having to actually pay some more money to get some stuff done. The pool, I would rather flip a house that doesn't have a pool. Pools are a pain in the butt. Pools are hard enough when it's your pool and you live there. when you're flipping a house and you have a pool and you expect that pool to sit there for 3, 4, 5 weeks without getting chemicals put in it, it will turn green. It happens, right? So, depending on where you are and what time of year it is, it could also be very difficult for you to get a pool guy to come out and fix that, right? It could, especially we have a property in Panama City that we're selling on Wednesday, tomorrow. What day is it? Yeah, selling tomorrow. We literally couldn't get a pool guy. They were like I called 5 pool guys. The next availability is like in a month, right? So pools can be a massive problem depending on what's wrong with it, where you're located, and what time of the year it is. Okay. Lawn maintenance, that wasn't a huge issue. Because we were a little bit more rural, we did have problems finding someone that was willing to do the lawn, but eventually we found a guy that did it super cheap. We had 5 acres and he did it for like $60 or $70, which is crazy cheap. Big red flag was the pool house septic system. We were having a problem that we couldn't figure out. The toilet wasn't flushing correctly. There was no pressure. It just seemed like it was going to be a massive problem. Turned out the pool house had its own septic system, which we didn't know about. Eventually got that pumped and it was all good. So that ended up not being as big of a deal as it could have been. And then we ran into a crawl space flooding issue. This one was a big deal. This one cost us a bunch of money.
That one cost us that 13 grand, basically, that bumped our rental budget up to 800. Now, amazing learning lesson in this. I mean, like I said, we're overly transparent. We did not get an inspection when we purchased this. We had our contractor go through, we had our agent go through, they sent us detailed photos, narrated video. You know, we trusted everything that they gave us, and we chose not to spend the $500 or $1,000 because there was nothing that we thought we had to be concerned with. Moving forward, we'll probably spend that $500 or $1,000 or whatever on every project moving forward, because knowing that we could have renegotiated on our buy price and taken all or some of that off, and not eating it on the back end with concessions or last minute, fixes, etc. Luckily, we had a big enough spread on this deal that it was okay. Again, why did we take the 575 and not, try and keep it on the market, hoping to get that 600? We knew that we were conservative. We knew that we were well priced. Partially, this was an expensive property. Our cost of capital, our risk on what's happening in the market. There was a bunch of things that said, you know what, I'd rather take the 73 or whatever cash in hand now on a buyer that we have high confidence is going to close. How did we know that? Well, these buyers had already sold their previous place and needed to be into another house. The buyers were actually motivated. So it was worth it for us to work with their timeframes to close quickly, to save ourselves another month of financing costs, another month of uncertainty in the market, to take a discount and get a buyer locked in and de-risk onto the next deal.
Yep. Gage, yeah, I'm on that situation there. That happens to us too, and I just pass. So wholesalers are always pushing to take it as is and not give me an inspection period. It's not worth the risk. If they're saying you can't, and I'm not going to let you do your own inspection. I don't know who's teaching this to wholesalers. I see it a lot now where they're, hey, you got to take it immediately. Otherwise, I'm not going to accept your offer. Just pass on the deal. There's another deal, right? It's not worth taking that risk. Martinez, you asked, where was your question? Didn't you ask a question? Is it still on there? I can see it. I think you asked something though.
Yeah. Did you have to get an adjustment
There
with
it is.
Kiavi after the crawl space flooding?
We can't. So when you do your Kiavi draw setup in the very beginning, it's set in stone. We can't change it. So no, you end up coming out of pocket on that. So yeah, we don't get that money back until we actually close on the property. Um, what else? Anybody else had, was there anything else in there, Dave, that we need to?
No, that looks like it.
Oh, how do we like Kiavi? Every fix and flip lender has their own issues. Right? What we like about Kiavi is we have a Kiavi Pro account. And once you jump through all the hoops to get that, they make the rest of the process relatively easy. We've had some fights with Kiavi, I'm not gonna lie. We've had some issues with Kiavi. We've pulled loans from Kiavi. Literally the day of closing, we're like, you know what, forget it, we're not using you. So I think that will happen with basically every fix and flip lender out there. We've also used Anchor and we had issues with them too. So it is what it is with lenders. That's kind of the way I look at it. You know you're going to have issues, but as long as you're willing to jump through hoops, you know, it's no different than using a conventional lender, right? Talk to anybody that's bought a regular, that bought their own house with using a regular lender. How many hoops do they make you jump through, right? Same thing with Kiavi. So we like getting 90% of purchase price and 100% of rehab. They can close quickly. We understand their draw schedule. It's pretty easy. So yeah, we like them.
Brendan raised his hand.
Hey, while you guys are on the topic of like the actual rehab and stuff, I was just curious if you guys would spend a second just sort of breaking down like if you guys have certain responsibilities in the whole process, you know, starting from, I assume, when you find the deals all the way through to the fix and flip, and just sort of, I mean, obviously you guys share a lot, I can see that, but are there certain tasks that you have divided up?
Yep, very much so. That was something that Dave and I realized years ago. We've been partners now for like what, 4.5 years, Dave? Almost 5 years now? Is that, or is it four, or is it almost 4 years?
Almost 4 years.
Almost 4 years. I was in a partnership before this where there were really no defined roles, and it's a disaster, right? If you're going to be in a partnership, you better have very, very defined roles. And while you can spend time doing things together, every task within the business needs to have someone who's assigned to that task, right? So Dave has always handled more of the back end stuff. He handles more of the systems, the lists, the talking to the agents, talking to and finding the contractors. When it comes to the actual deals themselves, that's where I take over and I handle normally. Now, it does get a little bit more cloudy once we're deeper into the deal, because Dave is still the one that communicates with the contractor and the agent, even while deals are going on. So, you know, it's while it's defined, it's not like once the deal's under contract, Dave is no longer ever involved anymore. He's I would argue more involved than I am once the deal is actually going. You know, I don't talk to our agent or our contractor unless it's on a three-way call with Dave.
And I don't touch paperwork. And I don't touch Kiavi, essentially.
Right.
Gotcha. Do you have any help, Dave, finding these deals? Do you have any systems set up for creating and finding deals?
Yeah, so I mean, our goal wasn't to teach marketing on all this. It's really the management of flip, but we were running, where these deals came from is we were running inbound marketing.
Gotcha.
We've since switched just because, like Jeremy said, I like my systems and my checklists and my KPIs and everything. So in tracking our KPIs, we were watching our cost per contract and our leads per contract go up to the point where we just couldn't justify it anymore. There's things we like about inbound lead channels. Generally, they convert faster, which is attractive. We like a faster cash conversion cycle from if we spend $1 on marketing today, when do we get $1 back? We've since switched to a lower volume cold calling model right now. So
Gotcha.
still haven't been running it long enough for those KPIs to catch up and know exactly what they are. I think at our peak, we were at like 17 net leads to a contract on inbound. And then we watch that number, creep up substantially.
Cool. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, this is clearly going longer than we anticipated, so I will move on to the next slide. I want to walk through this calculator and go line by line here for a minute and show you guys exactly what this deal looked like. And again, like I mentioned earlier, like what kind of costs you actually have when you're doing a flip, right? So the after repair value, this is where the whole thing starts. You got to get this number right. Right, 575,000 was the after repair value, and again, I think we were shooting for 600 originally. Like that was like our pie in the sky kind of number, but we put 575 in the calculator just for the sake of being conservative to make sure our numbers worked. Our estimated when we went into it on the calculator, full disclosure, our number was 87.5. Right, again, we had the additional costs, so just to show you what the actual profit was on the deal, I went and changed the calculator to 100,000. We bought it for 337.5. Again, we use Kiavi on this. So coming down to the second box here, lender costs. Kiavi charges us 1 point, which is 1% of the loan. Their loan, again, they give us 90% of this purchase price. So they give us, basically 300,000, just a little over 300,000. We pay 1 point on that number of the $303,800. We pay 1 point on that. Then they add back in the $100,000 for the rehab. Okay. Our interest rate with them is 11.5 on this deal. It varies depending on the state. And I think even the type of property or the location within the state that it is, it can vary. But this one was 11.5%. And our monthly payments on this, because you do pay monthly payments with Kiavi, were $3,869 a month. That's a fun check to write every month when your project gets delayed. Second position lender was $65,000 on this. This lender is an expensive lender of ours. Happens to be very easy to work with, but he's expensive. No points, but 18%. So it cost us just under $3,000 in interest charges for that loan. And then Kiavi charges a $1,000 service fee. That's on every loan they do. So total lender cost for the 3 months this project took was $18,569. Now hopping over to the right side, these are just some general holding costs, property taxes, electric, water, gas, about $550 a month, so $2,200 in holding costs. When we close on the property, obviously we have closing costs to buy it. I just put them in as 1%. I didn't put it exact, just put it as 1% just to give us a general idea. $33.75. Selling costs, again, 1%, so $5,700 in closing costs plus 6% realtor commissions of $34.5. So just over $40,000 in selling costs. Estimated net profit $73,000 and ROI of 14.5. So why these two numbers are important for us? On my calculator, when I'm looking at the actual, not a screenshot of my calculator, when I'm looking at the actual calculator, if I were to change this number, and say we change the calculation down to 525, and our estimated net profit now drops down to $23,000. This box here will turn red. And that will tell me we're not doing this deal. It's not a deal. Okay. I have it set so it has to be over a $35,000 net profit in order for this box to turn green. And on the ROI side, I have it set so that this box has to be above a 12% ROI for it to turn green. If both these boxes are not green, we don't do the deal. Okay, so we can plug numbers into the calculator and within a couple seconds be able to tell you whether we'll buy the deal or not. If we know the repair estimate is accurate, we know, all right, yeah, this is a deal we'll definitely do. Okay, so this is where it becomes super, super important for you guys to have a calculator, whatever calculator you want to use, plug the numbers in on every single deal you're looking at, and don't ever try and just guess whether you're going to make money on a deal or not. We don't, like Dave said numerous times, we don't take chances, right? So if this calculator comes up and tells me it's a $45,000 profit, which would probably only be like a, I don't know what that would be way too low, right? Say it's a 9% ROI. We're not going to do it, right? Because we have to go to our, not just to Kiavi. Would Kiavi approve it? I don't know if they would approve it. We have to go to our private lenders and show them this deal and say, hey, I would like for you to lend on our deal. Here is why, and here's how your money is protected. But I know it's only a $30,000 profit. It's only a 7% ROI. So if the market happens to correct, a few percent, there's a chance you're probably going to lose money, but we should be fine. No, we don't do that. If this box is red, we don't have that conversation with our lender because we don't do the deal. Okay. And we know for a fact we are giving up money doing this, but that's how we make sure our lenders always get their money paid back. We sleep well at night, and all of our deals are profitable.
Hey, Jeremy, can I ask
Because
you?
of that, we were averaging 54,000 profit per deal was our average across, I think, our last 10 deals.
Can
Yep.
I just ask you a quick question about the realtor fees?
Yeah.
I see that you guys just default to 6%. I feel kind of, I mean, I'd have to ask Clarissa, she's in here also, but I'm pretty sure we've been paying 5. What are your thoughts on that? Should I be paying more? I mean, in my calculator, I'm looking right now and I have 5, and I'm pretty sure that's what I've paid my last few times. Do you guys just always pay 6? And what's the reasoning for that?
Okay. So yes, we pay 6. The reason we choose to pay 6 is because our realtor is part of our team, right? We look at this as we're building a team in whatever market we're in. We want to go to these agents and we want to tell them, hey, we're going to make sure that we make money together. Oh, but by the way, I'm going to cut your commission down so you really can't make any money, right? No, I want you to make your 3%. And if you happen to get the buyer, great. Now you can get your 6%. I'm happy to pay the agent because trust me, we're going to make them work for it. We'll put in a lot of work for us.
Clarissa, can I ask you real quick? Have we always paid 5 or are we paying 6 sometimes? Oh, I was hoping she would just chime in.
Brendan, also, I mean, look at it this way, right? That extra point, we're playing in median price point homes. In our markets on average, let's just
Sorry,
call that.
yeah, I'm here. Yeah, no, we did pay 6 in the beginning, but usually it's been 5.
Okay.
And that's what the agents have always agreed to.
I know. The only reason I guess I wasn't paying 6 because I thought 5 was that was the normal.
It depends on your market. I mean,
Yeah,
and
and
your market's doing, but I look at it this way also. If that extra point, like we're selling median price homes, call it a $400,000 home. If $4,000 kills our deal, we're getting way more than $4,000 worth of extra TLC from our agents, making sure that's going in their pocket. Really, they're only actually getting a half of that, which is 2,000, unless they're getting both sides of the deal. And then they have their cuts with their broker. So like, what are we arguing over? $1,000 in their pocket, $15 in their pocket, $1,500 in their pocket. So we want them to be incentivized.
That's a really good point, Dave. And I think that second part you said is I'll really take away, which is I should definitely look at the deal, because if it's a smaller deal, because we have kind of both in our market. So if it's a smaller deal, maybe it definitely makes sense to up that commission. And then if it's a bigger deal, I don't know, maybe make a decision on that.
Our agents do a lot of work for us.
Yeah.
But we also, again, we treat them as an internal part of our team. Like, what is one of the things that we do for them? We're spending, good marketing dollars generating leads. I'd argue a much higher percentage of our leads are retail leads than they are leads that will buy. So we're constantly giving them referrals as well. And then we're taking a commission back on that. Our goal, we may zero out our marketing spend just on referrals retail referrals we're sending our agents.
Nice.
That's kicking us back 25%, when they list it.
Nice.
So it's, it's just, it's a win-win all around. Like we really do treat them as an extension of our in-house team. Our whole company is virtual, but our pass off to them is as if, hey, this is our preferred lender. Let me get you on the phone with them. They sell all of our deals. We posture them. We set them up for success. We give them, all the 4 pillars and everything that we got on that call. And then they go out of their way. Like we don't typically send them to properties that we don't have under contract. If we're sending them somewhere, hey, how quick can you get here with the contractor? We just lock this up. They know we're not wasting their time. And they're going to get over there and jump through hoops, and they're going to, make sure they get the contractor available who's getting the work, and they're going to, go above and beyond for us.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks for explaining.
Yep.
Yeah, Brendan. So ours is a little different since they will bring us a deal and we do all of ours local. So it's a, refer back. We just try to keep that deal flow going with those agents. But we've never cut them out of anything. We've never paid them less. That's just always
No,
been what the deal has been. So, I mean, just to explain
Yeah.
too, that's how we've gotten our deals. Since we don't do anything virtual, it's all local. But, yeah, and I think our agents are a little bit different where they know they like to work with us because it's easier because we just know where they see it as we know what we're doing. And, if we need them, we holler. And if not, they don't, it's just an easier process for them. So that's one reason why they like to work for us. But if it was virtual, yeah, definitely they would have to work more for me. 100%.
No,
Yeah.
that's an awesome point too, Clarissa. Like they know that you're going to perform as a buyer. That peace of mind is so big because there's so many time wasters that agents deal with. I'm an agent myself, so I know there's nothing worse than driving around with a window shopper for a day.
Yeah.
Like, and all the back and forth and the appointment scheduling. It's like, no, like, can I just take, like, I'm here, I'm ready to work for you, but like, just tell me I'm not wasting my time. I can't have that conversation,
Yeah, perfect. Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on this calculator? I'm gonna move on to our last thing we want to touch on real quick. Okay, then, so we're not gonna go too deep into this, but I just want to show you this.
Go away then. Go away.
Who was that?
By the way, Martinez asked for the deal calculator.
put it
Jeremy
in
put
there.
it in the side chat there for
Yeah,
anyone
put
who
it in.
didn't see that.
Okay, so this is literally every step, every task in a deal. We had, until recently, we've had a transaction coordinator on payroll who doubled as a project coordinator. And her job was to make sure that every single thing that was supposed to be done, whether it was with Esker or with a contractor or with Kiavi, it stayed on time, was made sure it was done, it was documented. So this is 130 steps basically to a deal that we know at any point, any of us can look in here and say, yes, this was done. Here's the link to it. Here's proof that it was done. Here's the day it was supposed to be done, and whether it was or was not. So this would be literally how we would run our daily meetings, going through here, making sure that everything was done with every single one of our projects. But we could spend hours going through this, and we're not going to do that today.
This
So.
was not this robust when we started. We add things, refine things as we go. This is forever a work in progress. I know it'll change probably after our next project.
Yeah.
But how do we keep this business from being scary? And how do we stay on track and get a renovation done in 4 weeks and get in and out of projects quickly? Just a checklist. That our whole world revolves around checklists, and this is the biggie here.
This is the checklist of all checklists. Okay, so that is the general walkthrough of that project. What questions do you guys have that we can answer? I know I don't think, I guess I probably didn't say how long this call was supposed to take, but I kind of figured it was going to be an hour. So we're at 1 hour and 16 minutes. Any of you guys have any questions on anything?
Are So you guys sound like you said you're in multiple markets. You're flipping
Yeah.
in. Okay.
Yeah, we
Um,
are, so I am local to Birmingham.
Okay.
We do some stuff here in Birmingham, not in the ghetto. We pretty much only work in Shelby County, which is higher end stuff. We have properties down near the beach that we flip. We have done stuff in Huntsville. We're not active in Huntsville. And our primary market is Charlotte. So North Carolina, South Carolina.
Okay. Got it. I got my cat. Okay. I was just sort of curious. And then, how long? Oh, that was the other ones. How long have you guys been flipping houses?
Intentionally or accidentally? Accidentally a few years, intentionally a little over a year probably.
Okay.
Those of you that know us know we've kind of done, we go deep in whatever we do. And for a while we were deep into the hedge fund world, just strictly wholesaling to hedge funds. They were deep into the auction world. So we just kind of pick a lane and we just go after it until something tells us we should change.
Gotcha.
It was a couple things. I mean, we're really with the auctions we found they're so volatile that a bunch of deals kind of like died just going to auction. I mean, largely because the mindset of the sellers you're dealing with, or I should say owners, they're not agreeable sellers in a lot of cases. But there was a lot of times where if we would have just used the capital we learned how to raise, paid the arrears, brought it current, and taken it down ourselves, we left a ton of money on the table, not taking things down ourselves and not flipping. And then when we had kind of turned on some, started diversifying our marketing, turned out like wholesaling just didn't make sense. It wasn't attractive enough after you looked at your cost per contract and then commissions and everything it took to run your business. They're like, if we're going to make $12,000 and it costs us $6,000 for the contract, like
Interesting.
it's not really an attractive model. Like there's a lot of risk and time involved. Whereas, that same deal maybe had 60K in profit sitting on it if you just wait a few months to get it back. So, the challenge in converting from a wholesale model to a fix and flip model, this is a growing pain you're going to go through unless you're well capitalized, was waiting out our cash conversion cycle. Because for us, there was a decent upfront spend in salaries and marketing before, a deal actually closed on the back end and kind of started refilling the tank. But then once it catches up and you have a bunch of properties, I think we have 7 properties listed right now. So then it hits like a time where you're like, oh my God, now there's like bigger chunks coming in, which is way more fun than wholesaling.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, you guys, and you'll probably do another module, another video on some of your marketing and how you guys get all these deals.
We're honestly,
we expect to do we expect to do one of these a week.
Nice.
Yeah.
We have what we think you guys want to know, but like the more you guys tell us, just get engaged in that school community. We're figuring it out, but like let us know what you want to know. And we'll like if there's a specific topic we could jump into. For now, I think our goals will probably go through some what should we call it? Just some case studies on deals we've done. I think they open up a lot of questions, and we could just walk through our model. Our rules of what we stick to, what's a yes, what's a no, and then just ask us in real time, like, oh, how do you handle this? Like you can see, this deal didn't go perfectly. There was a lot of things that, like, if you're not mentally prepped to handle stress, and a bank account that's constantly going like this with construction draws, etc., like flipping is definitely not for you. It's not. I wouldn't start real estate as a flipper necessarily. Again, like I said in that post, I was like, if you asked me 4 years ago if I'd ever be flipping, let alone doing it virtually, where I can't like actually see the property and meet the contractors and stuff, I'm like, not a chance in hell. Now it's like, man, how many more markets does this make sense in? Like what?
Cool.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Evan, you look like you have a question. I know you do.
I don't have any questions. I was going to say, will it be the same link for next week's meeting? Same time, same place?
I'm not sure if it'll be the same time. It'd probably be a good idea for us to make it a standing appointment. It will definitely be the same link.
Okay.
Okay. And if anybody came on here, from a referral or anything like that, not from through our school community, you may want to get a link to the school community because we will be putting the recording for this call in the school community. So if you want the recording, it'll be sitting there.
I was chuckling because I was hearing you guys describe some of the mistakes you made. And I was thinking if I'd been in a group like this when I started, before I did our first, well, before I got too big for my britches after the third flip, I would have made a lot more money. So having somebody that could coach me and being fully transparent about what's going on is key. Because if you're just like, oh, it's all going great, and really, you're making mistakes, like you're not going to grow that way. But if you're willing to be honest, that's everybody can grow. So
Yeah, appreciate that. Anybody that tells you that it's all good and everything goes perfectly is lying to you, or they're not actually flipping. So, stuff always goes sideways. It just happens.
neither of those are good.
Yeah.
Devin, you learn those lessons really well, though. I guarantee it. I learn a
Oh, yeah.
lot of expensive lessons as well, and those are the ones that stick.
Yeah. Yeah. The not inspecting a house that you mentioned on that last deal, we did that 4 times last year, and we lost on all of them. So that's
We did that once before, and you think we would have learned on a flip that we didn't plan on flipping probably a little over 2 years, maybe 2 years ago, and it ended up uncovering foundation issues, which I never would have learned if we didn't go through that. That foundation issues generally aren't as big a deal as people make them out to be.
Now they're not cheap,
They're not cheap, but
and don't call AFS. Promise you that.
I'm probably not touching a fire damage property, but foundation issues aren't scaring me off.
Yeah.
yeah. I'm more scared of termites that I can't see than I am of foundations. So
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. All of a sudden you got a $30,000 repair because every one of your floor joists is gone.
Mm.
Happens.
Appreciate you
all right.
guys.
Any other questions, guys?
Dude, thank you guys all for hanging out for like an hour and a half in the middle of the afternoon on a Tuesday. Like, really appreciate you guys. Hope you got a ton of value. And look forward to seeing you again. Just let us know in the group what else we could what else you guys want to know. Cool.
Awesome.
See you guys. See you
Thank
next
you,
time.
guys. Appreciate you all.